Hey YouTube, how's it going? I might alarm everyone by not actually talking about myself for an entire video. Radical Feminism, RadFem2012, has announced that it won't allow non-biological women to attend, and this is obviously transphobic. But I want to discuss it from the issue, from the perspective of feminism, because it seems crazy to me. So, feminism in its basic form is about equality between men and women, and I assume that because trans women are not allowed to go to this event, that men are not allowed to go to this event, and that's fucking crazy. That's crazy talk. Well, you don't get male radical feminists, that's just fucking bollocks. Some of the strongest male feminists, some of the strongest radical feminists I've ever met have been men. So the idea, the notion that in some way their sex should disqualify them from having a valid opinion on the situation of equality between men and women is crazy in my mind. And I've always had a problem with women-only feminist groups. But these groups usually tell me that, there are a lot of women in those groups that don't feel comfortable being around men that have been the victims of rape or domestic violence or that sort of thing. They want to be free to discuss that type of topic, but I still can't really understand it, because there are so many male rape and domestic violence victims in the world that I'm not ready to disqualify someone on the presence of their penis from being able to have a discussion on that situation, even if it is more prevalent against women than it is against men. So men are not allowed, and that's my first problem with this notion that trans women wouldn't be allowed. Secondly, that that trans women actually experience like a drop in their salary after surgically becoming a woman from becoming a man. If a woman becomes a man, they actually end up earning more money. I think it's like 3%, I don't know, it's been months since I've been debating any of this on YouTube. And it's about 1% drop for a man that becomes a woman. So trans women are even subject to the same sexism that biological women are subjected to, and have just as much right to be there discussing that problem. But the main issue with radical feminism rejecting trans women is we're the fuckers making the argument about gender roles in the first place. Last time I checked, unless there's been like a big feminist conference that I didn't fucking get an invite to, which is actually a possibility, one of the main arguments that we as radical feminists are making is that you're not born a man or a woman, that you're socialised to become a man or a woman, that the differences that we see between men and women in society are largely socialised and not biologically predetermined. So if someone is by gender a woman, I really fail to see how in any way that disqualifies them from being a radical feminist or attending RadFem2012 to discuss those views. It's us propagating the idea that gender roles do not only symbolise what we already are, but actually inform what we become. And moving away from radical feminism, just feminism in general, like the whole reason that I am a feminist is because I don't believe that my uterus defines me. And I find it very difficult to get my head around the idea that only people... I mean, we're talking about biological women versus transgendered women or transsexual women, but it's hilarious reading some of the comments around this, because you get people talking about, like, reproductive women, and they mean biological women, but essentially what they're saying is, like, any woman that hasn't had a baby or hasn't had some kind of test to prove that she's not barren cannot be a radical feminist. Yeah, no wonder I don't really hold with organised feminism very much, because it's fucking stupid shit like this. Like, that's a major issue that you've got there if you're going to argue that, that gender is only the elephant in the room, as long as it applies to people that biologically match their gender sexually. Anyway, I might have missed something. It'd be interesting to hear if I have, and I hope you're all well. See you soon. Bye.